Hey, this is Dr. Keith Hersey, and you are listening to the Destroying Diabetes podcast.
Good day, everyone. This is Dr. Keith Hersey of Hersey Pharmacy. I'm here again. I guess they didn't throw me out again, so I made it to episode 3. Just looking for someone to come through the door and take the microphone and take the headphones away from me and then tell me to get out. So I guess I'll do this until someone comes in. Thank you for listening and supporting the podcast. Getting good feedback from people, and continue just to leave a review at wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a rating. Hopefully, you can give us a 5-star rating. If not, we'll try to improve on it to get you to be able to give us a 5-star rating at some point. Again, thank you for all of the support. Let your neighbors and your friends, anybody that has an interest in diabetes, they may have diabetes or suspect that they have diabetes. And it doesn't matter, they're not limited to, I'm based in Durham, North Carolina, but I'm not limited to North Carolina, I'm not limited to the United States. Can have people, I don't know who's the farthest I've had contact me yet, but if you're listening outside the United States, feel free to send me an email at Hersey, Hersey, help at gmail.com. Yeah, just send me an email, shoot me an email real quick and let me know where you're listening from. And again, just thank everyone for the support. Today, we're just going to, I think one of the first things we need to review is some of the ongoing myths about type 2 diabetes that are prevalent in society, and what I've seen with my own experience working as a pharmacist and working with diabetic patients and being a diabetic patient myself as well. Just address some of those. Hopefully you'll be able to get some good information and be able to debunk some of the myths that you may hear from friends and family that will tell you different things about diabetes that they're expert on, whether they are or not. Some of the myths I've gathered, some from the American Diabetic Association, some from Duke University, and some just from my own experience. I'm not going to highlight every single one of them. If there's a myth that I didn't go over, again, email me, and that could be the source of a future episode. So I'm just going to hit on the main ones that that I've experienced, as like I said, as a diabetic patient and as a pharmacist, healthcare professional. Probably like the biggest one is the number one thing is that if you're overweight, you will always develop type 2 diabetes. That's probably the number one myth, and that's not true. There's plenty of people that are overweight that don't have or never develop type 2 diabetes, just as well that there's people that are at a normal weight that do have type 2 diabetes. So now weight is a risk factor. Obesity is a risk factor. People that tend to be especially obese are more likely to develop diabetes than someone that's not. So that is true in that aspect, but it's not that everyone that's overweight will develop type 2 diabetes. It's a risk factor, and it's a strong risk factor, but it's not the only risk factor, but it doesn't mean because you're overweight that necessarily that you will develop type 2 diabetes. So that's one of the first myths to debunk. And the second one is several myths wrapped into it. So I'll just address the main myth and then some of the myths surrounding it. Um, Sugary drinks and sugar food cause diabetes because you're eating too much sugar. That's why you got diabetes. Now, again, a diet is probably one of the most important factors in type 2 diabetes that people do. Sugary drinks can contribute to type 2 diabetes, but again, it's not the sole cause. There's people that drink 10 Mountain Dews a day and never develop diabetes. And then there's people that drink only like water and diet drinks and they develop type 2 diabetes. So that's, again, that's not, it's something that can contribute to diabetes, but it's not something that's, again, just because you eat a lot of sweets, drink a lot of sugary drinks, that necessarily causes diabetes. It's just like I said, it can contribute, or if you do have diabetes or pre-diabetes, that it can make your condition worse. But that's not true. So, and then another factor that goes along with that, that's tied into it, is that now that you have diabetes or diagnosed with diabetes, or maybe in a pre-diabetic state where that your blood work indicates insulin resistance, and so that you're not diagnosed with full-blown diabetes yet, but your blood work is tending that way. So the people will say, we shouldn't eat carbohydrates or sugary foods, but again, nothing is absolute. You can include carbohydrates, and matter of fact, you should include carbohydrates. If you tend to avoid any carbohydrates, you put yourself at risk, especially if you're on medication for getting hypoglycemia, which is a low blood sugar, which that can cause problems in itself. If it's too low, you can go into like shock, or you can go unconscious and hurt yourself that way as well. So hyper, which is too much high level blood sugar, or hypo, which is too low. Don't want to be in either one of those. You want to just kind of be in a regular range, not too high, not too low. Okay, and then another thing is that when we talk about not being able to eat like sugar or sugary foods, anything with some, moderation, like you can't eat a pack of donuts or something like that. But if you have, one donut periodically, once a few weeks or once a month, then that's okay. The main thing is that if you do have foods that are high in sugar, that you limit the portion control, like you try to have a smaller amount than usual, because of you being a diabetic patient, that you are at more risk of your blood sugar going higher, especially if it's not well controlled. If your blood sugar is not well controlled, the more that's in control, the more that you can stray away every once in a while and get some good desserts or cookie or something like that. But like I said, again, everything is kind of like, nothing is absolute one way or the other. We don't want you to just never to have cookies or cakes or anything like that, because a lot of times if people are denied those things, then you develop cravings for them, and then if you go eat, then you just overdo it, and that's worse than having a small slice of cake or a few cookies is better than eating a whole cake or a whole batch of cookies because you've been denying yourself for weeks and then you finally get access to some and you go out of control. Okay. And then another myth that's not related to sugar and carbs is that one thing is about medication, which the goal of working with me as a coach is to reduce or eliminate the medications. But the medications is needed, especially if you are um, hyperglycemic or constantly have high blood sugar. We gotta get that blood sugar down. And sometimes the best way to get it down in the short term is with medication. So, if you use medication, then that's fine. If you want to, in the long term, reduce or eliminate it, then you can work with the guidance of a health professional, and like myself, we can help you get minimize or get off it. But if you have to do it, then that's fine, and you're under uh, treatment with your healthcare provider. Um, and it doesn't mean necessarily that you've done something wrong. A lot of times, especially if people have to get on insulin, they feel like, well, they failed. They didn't control their diabetes, and that's not necessarily the case. Um, ideally would like to, like, when people first get diagnosed with diabetes, and they try to work on diet and exercise because that's kind of the best way that you can, even if you're on medication in the long term, if you want to reduce the effects of diabetes. So, but if you have to be on that, if your sugars are constantly high and out of control, we got to get them down. And the best way to get them down in the short term is with medication. Now, you can work with your doctor or healthcare provider and make lifestyle changes with your diet, increasing your movement, um, and be able to reduce the amount of medication that you take. Um, but but there's nothing wrong with having to take medication. Don't let anybody shame you because you have to take medication for diabetes. The main thing is that because the effects of having high diabetes outweigh any kind of shaming or embarrassment about taking medication, because you can't put yourself at risk for the high blood sugar, put you at risk for stroke or heart attack, put you at risk in losing an organ, losing a limb, brain damage. So you can't have high blood sugar. So that's the thing. So you have to do it like with medications to keep it in check. And if you can do it with lifestyle changes to keep your blood sugar thing, but the main thing is to keep from having elevated blood sugar, especially over a long period of time, because that's where that does damage to your body. So let's say, so there's nothing wrong with insulin. There's nothing wrong with taking medication to get. The main thing is want to get your blood sugar down. Now, of course, if you want to make the changes and lifestyle changes to be less dependent on that, then that's where someone like myself will come in, and we can help you do that. But that in itself is nothing to be wrong and nothing to be ashamed of. Um, And then also people like, well, do you have to eat special foods as a diabetic? Well, you don't have to eat special foods. I suggest that anybody that wants to with a diabetic, the biggest thing that you can add to whatever you're eating is like um, less processed food, um, and try to incorporate more fruits and vegetables into your diet. The biggest change you can do is, especially with vegetables, because vegetables can fill you up, so you have less cravings for
sweets and starchy foods. You just want to like lower the amount of starchy foods that you take, like bread and potatoes and pasta, especially like white bread, white pasta. There's pastas and potatoes that you can have, like sweet potatoes, even a baked potato every once in a while, but just don't put all the sour cream and all that stuff on there. But it's okay. And there's different pastas now that you have pastas that are alternate, that are made of squash and cauliflower. So you have alternatives than just having flour pasta. And then even some of the flour pastas, you can have like whole wheat or something like that. That's a lot more healthier than just white flour pasta. Okay. And then another myth that I wanted to address is that if you have type 2 diabetes, are you more likely to get sick, like with colds and other illnesses? Well, type 2 diabetes in itself doesn't do that. But again, because you have type 2 diabetes, you are more at risk if you do get sick because um, the illness can elevate like your blood sugar because a lot of times the illness puts additional stress onto your body, which that in itself will can increase like the blood sugar in your bloodstream just to deal with that. So diabetes itself will not make you more sick, but if you do get sick, you have to be more careful as a diabetic. You have to be careful about, like, say, if you have a cold, what kind of medication that you take, because some medications, cold medications, can elevate your blood sugar. So you want to avoid those type of medications, and you want to talk to your doctor or your pharmacist, and they can point you to the right medications to take if you do have like the cold or flu and you're trying to treat like a cough. So in itself, it's just like it's nothing is one way or the other, but diabetes can contribute to things and make it worse. So you just don't ignore and just go on as normal. But you have to just bear that in mind when you're sick, and you may have to adjust like your medications, especially when you're like on insulin. You may have to, on the short term, you may have to increase your dose a little bit just to keep your blood sugar under control. Because, like I said, the sickness in itself a lot of times will raise like your blood sugar. But so you need to work with your doctor and your pharmacist just about making any adjustments why that you're sick, and then once you're better, then you can adjust your medications back accordingly and go back to what you were probably taking regularly before you were sick. Okay, let me see if there's any other myths that you that want to deal with. The thing is that, like I said, the thing I want to emphasize is medication. That medication itself is not bad. It's not something to be ashamed of if you do have to take it. So that's fine if you do have to take medication. But medication doesn't give you like a free reign where you can just eat whatever you want. Don't have to care because your medication is keeping your blood sugar under control. Now you want to still make the changes and have the medication works best if you're working with that. If you're working on your end and making lifestyle adjustments in your diet and increasing your movement, and then medication, like I said, the more that you work on your diet and your movement, the less you can be dependent on the medication. And like I said, if you want to be on the path of not taking medication, those are the biggest areas that you have to work on. Okay, so I didn't want to be on too long. If there are any other myths or questions that you have about type 2 diabetes, like I said, just shoot me an email at percyhealthhelp@gmail.com, or you can leave it in the comment section on any of the podcasts or YouTube. and I will address those. And if there's anything that I didn't cover, I'll be glad to cover it in a future episode. So again, I thank everyone for listening, and I hope to hear from you soon. Be blessed.